daily life. A lot of people, they think that sounds amazing. And for me, the older I'm getting and the more impact that I'm chasing, it was actually kind of pointless. My job was to basically go to the mall and watch this guy spend $50,000 cash on a Rolex and then put it on Instagram and just flex on people. And I was like, man, this is not really fulfilling. And I remember I was telling my friend, I said, man, as soon as I said that to him, as soon as I said I would give all my money away, well, God checked me. Sometimes God does that. And the second it left my mouth, he said, if you're not giving now with the little you have, what makes you think you'll do it if I give you millions? Do it now. And so that was a serious gut check for me because, it's the truth. So I'm like, all right, well, what does that look like? Because if you're not giving 10 cents on the dollar, you're definitely not going to give 100,000 on a million. I promise you that. And so I started feeling really convicted, and I'm just like, man, what am I doing with my life? And the fact that I feel like, I'm supposed to quit my job and give away all my money. That was the vision that I had in my head. And so I remember I went to my wife, and I told my wife, I said, hey, I think I'm going to quit my job and give away all of our money. Now, any married people in here, how would that conversation go? That probably don't really make much sense, right? Like I said, this whole thing makes no sense on paper. And so, those of you who know my wife, she's kind of crazier than I am. And she said, yeah, I think you should do it. And I was like, wow, okay. I thought she was going to talk some sense into me, but, So, next slide. So the journey began. So I quit my job, and I went out to the streets, and I started to give away all my money. I'm going to the streets, doing street ministry, praying for people, loving on people, giving away thousands of dollars a week, paying for people's gas, paying for people's groceries, putting homeless people in motels, and I'm just having the time of my life. I actually had total peace doing this. Now, I had no money coming in, no job. My wife was working part-time, so we were not making enough money to pay the bills, especially the money that I was putting out. But I was just draining my life savings. And so I said, okay, well, how the heck is this going to work out? Next slide. So I figured to myself, well, the only way that this is sustainable is if maybe I start a ministry, and maybe, if I have a ministry, then I can take donations legally. So we started a nonprofit called Worth and Purpose. And the concept of that is that we just want people to know that they have worth and purpose. Next slide. So our mission for this nonprofit is to be uncommonly generous with our time and money to spread the love of Jesus. God has completely changed my life. I serve a generous God. And in this life, everybody's trying to hold on to their time and their money. And I said, you know what? I'm going to make my life count. I'm going to radically give that away and try and change people's lives and share the love of God on the streets. So this street ministry was birthed. Now, next slide. Realistically, I'm running out of money. I'm continuing to do what I do. No one knows my nonprofit exists. And I'm like, okay, God, I know that you told me to do this. How is this going to work out? So next slide. So I'm out doing street ministry, and I'm doing this for real. I'm putting my money where my mouth is. I'm trying to figure this out. And I'm like, okay, I'm either going to be homeless or I'm going to have a really cool story to tell, or both. And so as a videographer, I was making videos for that guy, but I was off social media for many years. I was on YouTube in 2009, and then I quit in 2012 after I had a really bad encounter with MTV. I did a reality show, went out to Hollywood, all that stuff, and it was just a lot of false promises. And long story short, I deleted my social media, and I was just off for almost 10 years, you could say. And so I got back on social media to document this process. I said, I'm a videographer. I might as well document this because I want to watch what God's doing. I had no intention of being a YouTuber. I really didn't know where it was going, but I knew that I had to get it on film. And so I start telling people stories, and I start sharing it with the world, and nothing's really happening, but I just wanted to be able to look back on it. So I meet this guy at the park named Mr. Bob. Mr. Bob is homeless, and he has cancer. And I'm like, man, that's a terrible situation. He doesn't do drugs. He doesn't drink. He just lost everything because of medical bills. He worked for 40 years. He was on Social Security, and he just couldn't handle it. He was in a rough spot. So I asked my very small audience at the time, I said, hey, guys, this is Mr. Bob. You want to help me get him off the street? And I'm not thinking anything of it. I'm like, well, maybe we'll get a couple $100. We'll put him in a hotel room, and then, maybe I can help him figure out a situation from there. Well, I wake up, and the next morning, the video has 20 million views. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's insane. So I take the crappy website that I have, I put a little donate button on there, and $10,000 came in overnight. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. So I took that money out, and we got Mr. Bob off the street. He's been off the street for almost 3 years now. He never has been homeless again. You can clap for that. And he beat cancer. Yeah, you can really clap for that. Yeah. Next slide. So I also had this crazy idea when I started as well that 100% of the donations would go back out to the people. So I didn't, I started out, I'm like, I want full transparency. I don't want anybody accusing me of stealing money. I don't want anybody, just talking nonsense like they do. And so I said, I'm going to give all the money away. And that's kind of crazy because, as a nonprofit, you should take a little off the top to pay, your staff or your building or whatever you do. But I just said, I'm going to give it all away, and God will figure out the rest. And so I'm like, okay, well, now my ministry is funded, but how am I going to get funded? And so since that video went viral, next slide, every single video started going viral. Every video. I'm talking about 10 million views, 50 million views. We have one video with 188 million views, one single video. It was crazy what God did. And so since those videos went viral, people just started naturally donating, and they're like, well, I love what you're doing. I want to fund the next video. I'm like, okay, cool. And so since the ministry was funded and all those videos were going viral, then YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok all started paying me for the actual videos. So overnight, when I was on my last couple dollars, I got funded, and then the ministry got funded, and boom, we've been going for 3 years now. So it was God that told me to do it. It wasn't some crazy idea. So next slide. So I'm not saying any of this to brag, but this is just what God has done. So I'm only one man, and we have over 9 million followers. We went from 0 to 9 million organically. We have over 4 billion views at this point. Stories of massive impact. These are some of the people that we've gotten off the street, bought them homes, just really radical stories that we have. And also, we've given away over $500,000 in the past 2.5 years. So it's been incredible what God is doing. And then I'm just going to go through these slides real quickly because I'm already running out of time. So then we got a headquarters building downtown Lakeland. We started leasing a building there because we wanted to be rooted in the community and take this thing to the next level. You can go through a few slides in there. I am an artist, so we painted murals on every single wall in the place. If you guys ever want to come to Lakeland, I'll give you a tour, and you can hear the longer version of the story. This is our little event space in there. Keep going with it. That's the hallway. We're going to paint something similar in the coffee shop. That's our break room, and then we have a 50s diner for a future podcast, so the people that we help can tell their stories. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So then I was like, how can we make more impact? And so next slide, we got this ice cream truck that, like I said, is out there, all free ice cream. And so what this does is all free ice cream for the community. It's like an icebreaker. There's been people that have been homeless. We give them an ice cream sandwich. That's our icebreaker. We build a relationship and then have legit got them off the street permanently. It's been an amazing evangelism tool. Next slide. I was at a mastermind in my building, a bunch of barbers from all over the U.S., and this tall guy, or I'm just really short, I don't know. His name is Kyle, and he was in the back row. I didn't even know his name at the time, but there was like 20 barbers in the room, and he stood up after I spoke, and he's like, God is telling me to give you a mobile barber shop. And I'm like, what? And so, sadly, but sometimes in the church world, when somebody gives you a blessing, it's actually a curse. So I'm thinking, okay, this guy's going to give me a $10,000 trailer that needs $40,000 worth of work. Well, he says, design the wrap, I'll pay for it, and I'm going to drive it all the way from, where the heck's he from? Minnesota? Montana. Wow, thank you for knowing my story better than me. So this guy drives this trailer all the way from Montana all the way to Florida, and it gets here, and I open the door, and I'm like, there's no way that this is real. There's no way that this is real. The barbershop is nicer than my house. It's a 2-chair barbershop. It's got a bathroom, a sink, and I asked him, I said, bro, how much did it cost to do this? And he said, well, me and my dad are carpenters. We went all out on it, and it was a $70,000 build. And he just gave it to me for free. And he's like, I know you're going to use it. I know you're going to change lives in there. So next slide. So I was a barber for 17 years, and so now we just use it. That's kind of like my pulpit. That's my church, basically, one-on-one barbershop. That's how I pour into people, speak life into people, help people get jobs. It's just been absolutely incredible what God has done in that barbershop. And then another creative thing that we just got donated. So there's a guy in Tampa. He owns an insurance company. He donated this little ridiculous Japanese micro van, and I was like, okay. Thank you. And so the steering wheel is on the opposite side. I look like an absolute moron driving it. But it's hilarious, though. But next slide. I said, what's the most creative thing that we can do with this thing? Well, I think you guys know me by now. So, yeah, next slide. So we got the legit Ninja Turtle van, okay? I've always wanted to be a Ninja Turtle when I grew up, and now I get to actually make it happen. And so... yeah, it's legit. I got some friends in the Monster Jam world that build monster trucks, and they did that all for me. We got the Worth and Purpose pizza boxes. This is how you know God's in it. The license plate Cowabunga was available, okay? How's that possible? So we're going to go out. We're going to dress up like Ninja Turtles. We're just going to spread the love of God, make people smile, act like absolute fools for the gospel, right? All right. Next slide. So then this is one thing that we're definitely our 2025 goal, besides acquiring land, because we got some big plans. But I needed a place to put all this stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, we have the ultimate mobile outreach, system. We got the hot pizza. We got the hot ice cream. We got the hot ice cream. Nobody wants hot ice cream. We got the hot pizza. We got the cold ice cream. And we got the barber trailer. So, like, to me, that's like a awesome outreach. But the one thing that's missing would be a shower trailer. But you guys know me better than this. I'm not going to have some busted white trailer. Boom, we're going to start another ministry called Shower the Streets with Love, right? So that's what we want to do. So next slide. So, just to wrap this up, I got 1 minute left. I just want to encourage you guys that you need social media in this day and age, okay? I have built a personal brand, and that's my personal brand, all these crazy, artistic, creative, fun, God-loving toys, right? But you got to use social media to change the world, because I couldn't just tell you about this stuff. I had to document it and put it out there, and that's the language of the world, and that's what God is using. And for me, I had to get out of my comfort zone. Next slide. It was not hard, or it was not easy for me to do that and start that ministry, but life begins where your comfort zone ends. Getting out of my comfort zone increased my impact, and it transformed my life forever. And last slide, I really want to encourage you to make your life a story worth telling. It's not about me. It's about leading people to Jesus and doing it in a creative way. And I literally just ran out of time. Love you guys.
Y'all give it up for Travis Doodles.